This is our series on textbooks that we use in our MSc courses. So today's edition is going to be covering the fundamentals of material science and engineering by Callister. This is published by Wiley, as you can see here. This is actually an instructor copy, so you will not be able to get this exact version, but this can be obtained in what they call a loose leaf form that you can add to your own binder, or an ebook version that's becoming more and more popular. So this can vary anywhere from maybe $100 to $150 new. You can tend to get some used copies of the physical textbook, and this is the 6th edition. There are obviously 5 previous editions, and there is another version of this textbook that is not what we call the integrated approach. So just a little bit about that. When they talk about the integrated approach, what that means is the different classes of materials. So metals, ceramics, polymers, etc. So when they talk about something in this book, they try to do that sort of independent of a class of materials. However, it's not always that in practice, but that's the idea. And so the other book is formatted a little differently, but the integrated approach version of the textbook is the one we use, and currently we are using the 6th edition, which I believe is the most current edition. All right, so obviously this is the one that we use in our introduction class. We also use it as a follow-up, a second semester class for our major students. So there's quite a bit of information in here, and so there's a lot to kind of cover. A couple other things. There is an electronic resources with this, with what they call Wiley Plus. So that might be dependent on whether your school or university does Wiley Plus, but there's usually some good worked problems, things like that can be accessed through Wiley Plus. So check that out if you have this book or if you're interested in it. All right, so let's go through what's in this book and why we use this in our course. So I always like to just kind of show you what's in here. So for our introduction class, 3 credit hour course, we cover, like I said, about half of this book, I would say, and then the other half is more or less covered in the second class. And so what we cover in this first class is the introduction, structure and bonding, and that's atomic structure and bonding, sorry, and then structures of metals and ceramics, polymers. We also have imperfections in solids, diffusion, mechanical properties, deformation and strengthening mechanisms, failure, phase diagrams, phase transformations. So those typically are the chapters that we would cover in an introduction class. And so I think this is built around sort of a ground up approach. And so what I mean by that is when we cover and when we start talking about materials, we would essentially start thinking about the smallest length scales first. So the atoms that go into materials, and then how they're bonded together and how they form into structures, and then look at properties and other aspects of the materials. So that's what we would cover like I said, in the follow-up semester course, we would cover more of the properties. So things like the electrical properties, types, processing, more on processing. We would look at things like thermal, magnetic, and optical properties. And so that kind of takes you through what's in here. So like I said, this is probably the most common, or at least both versions of the Callister text from Wiley are probably the most common MSc text used in the US, I would say. So they're very common. I think they're really great resources, really straightforward in the way they're laid out, and lots of useful information. So if we kind of go to a random page here, it's organized very well with sections and subsections. lots of nice places for definitions. The diagrams are also going to be very good when we talk about that. So lots of good resources. The other thing I think that's great about the Callister text, along with the content in the chapters that you see here, is that just like any other Wiley text, this is one of the big publishers, and so there's lots of example problems. If you go to the ends of the chapters, there's going to be lots of homework problems that you might have in your class, and I scrolled to the end of the chapter, but in this recent edition what they've done is they've moved it towards the back, so I just have to go to a different place, but if I go to there, you'll see that we have some solutions, but you can also see, for example, these are the questions and problems for chapter 14, so they've kind of just all put them in one place. But the book problems here are good resources for getting students just familiar with the content and so forth. So in an intro class, there's a lot of different topics, and so you want to have some good worked problems. So good resource on the problem side. And like I said, Wiley Plus adds a lot. So whenever you see this plus mark, those are also in the Wiley Plus system if you have access to that at your university. I do want to mention one other thing, and this is one reason why, even if you're not going to go into MSc as your chosen career, although I think you should, one of the good things about a textbook like this, an intro course, so if you have the option to get a physical copy, so not the ebook, but a physical copy, like the loose leaf here, even an older edition, just to have some a database of information. And so what I wanted to kind of show you here is the appendices, because I think the appendices in an intro book like this, Callister, I obviously have the most experience with this, but others have similar databases of information. One thing you'll find is in this section, there's unit conversions. That's fine. But really, one of the main selling points of an intro textbook for later in your academic career or for when you are out on the job is often the properties section. So this is just a property section, and you can see we've got density, modulus elasticity, Poisson's ratio, strength, ductility, all these different things that you can get. So we can look up the density for a 4140 steel alloy, and we can get it in grams per centimeter cube or pounds per inch cube. And so there's density, which is a good one to have. A lot of the mechanical properties like modulus of elasticity, we can look that up for different metal alloys, different ceramics, refractory materials, ceramics, polymers, a lot of different materials for that. And the same thing, Poisson's ratio, yield strength, tensile strength, percent elongation. These are all really good resources to have this in like one printed out form, or in the ebook is a really great resource to have, because I know you can find them on the internet. However, sometimes you don't know where they're getting those values. These are all in one place, and a really great resource to have. So I always recommend, even if it isn't this textbook, I always recommend to those that take an MSc course or are engineers in general and need to work with materials, is to have a resource like this so that you can have a quick resource. I'm always jumping to this, in my career as an instructor, to look for these types of values. So it's always a good resource for classes later in the curriculum. If you're in an MSc program, it's always great. So like I said, just to kind of recap, this is Fundamentals of Material Science and Engineering. I would obviously kind of recommend this book. There are other MSc texts out there. This is going to be one of the more common ones. It's laid out very conveniently. No issues with the layout of the approach to this text. Lots of good information, very good resource for, again, intro class and something you can come back to later in your career. And like I said, beyond the problems and stuff that Wiley does, which are really good resources, the other benefit to having an intro class or intro textbook like this is the properties tables at the back. So just a quick look at this. Again, I would recommend this. Like I said, it's about $150 available in a loose or ebook. And if you're really strapped for cash and you don't need this particular one for your class, you can sometimes find used copies or previous editions that won't just have the current stuff that would be used for your class. All right, hope that helped.